You know how they tell you if you don't have anything nice to say, then just don't say anything at all? Yeah, I think I might have to keep my mouth shut on this one. This is the default high school that comes in the Sims 4 high school years pack, and I don't really understand how this kind of thing keeps happening, but every time they do a default build, it always turns out like this. It's not even that the shape is bad or the style is bad, because I do really like the idea of a big giant Art Deco style school. I think the layout's cool. There's some kind of cool pergola stuff. I think the bigger problem is just how empty it has to be. Like, if you have your Sims come to school here, it is literally just a big, massive, empty box. Even just in this section right here by the front, this is bigger than most of the houses that I build. Just this one little part, and there's literally not a single piece of furniture in it. I think this lot suffers in particular for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a 64 by 64 lot, so they tried to make the lot bigger to take up more space, but because it's a default build, it has to have relatively small amounts of items in it just so it runs better on everybody's computer. So because the lot is so big, the building has to be big, and then they can't really put that much furniture in it. But it makes me feel sad when I look at it, because the high school has so much potential. It's like such a cool concept to have a functional active high school in the game, and then we have like a whole chess club and all they get is 2 chess tables in the basement in this tiny little room, and I really so desperately wish that it could have been better. And that's what I want to try to fix today. I want to see if we can rebuild the high school today. I think I'll go for a slightly different style because I do like this kind of Art Deco looking building, but I feel like we can make something a bit more interesting, and we can also make something a little bit bigger as well. So I'm just gonna flat out bulldoze this and we're gonna completely replace the lot. Looking at this is kind of daunting because it's such a big lot. It's a cool space though. They've really done a lot to blend in the environment around it, like with the bus loop and the fake parking lot and the whole fake football field behind it. It is a really cool space, and we need to make something that is appropriately cool to fill it. Before we get started, I should probably warn you that this is gonna be a long speed build, so maybe grab a snack or something before we dive in, and let me show you what I built. So I was trying to go for like classic American high school that you see in the movies. That was sort of the style that I was envisioning for this. So with that comes a couple of disclaimers. Obviously, number one, this is a very Americanized looking high school. Just in general, the high school years expansion pack is like very American high school, and like stereotypical American high school with the cheerleading team and the football players and the football field. It's very American. So this build is kind of similar to that. It definitely reflects more of an American high school experience, but it's not necessarily an accurate American high school experience. This is not anything like the high school that I went to, even remotely, both in style, but also in like the kinds of rooms that it has in it. And I'll kind of explain that more as we're starting to build it. But with any build that I do in The Sims, it's this like constant balance between I want it to be realistic, but I also want it to be functional in game. And you kind of have to find that line where it makes the most sense. And with stuff like this, you kind of have to throw a lot of realism out the door because you want it to work when your Sims are playing here. So just as an example, in The Sims 4 high school years, you only need to have 2 classrooms. There's not need for any extras. They only ever hire 2 teachers. So in this entire giant school, I only put 2 actual classrooms, but I did add in a bunch of extras, things that could pretend to be classrooms, kind of like skill building spaces almost, and I was basing the extras around the skills that we have in The Sims 4. So I put in a science lab, and a lot of high schools in real life have like lab type of spaces, but instead of trying to decorate it to look like a real life school lab, I put a lot of the Sims lab stuff. Think like that giant microscope item, which you maybe wouldn't find in a high school in real life, but I put it here because it made sense to use it. So I'm just telling you all of that to hopefully manage your expectations of the kind of stuff that we're gonna have inside of this building. In total, it's 2 classrooms, it's got a cafeteria, and then it's got a bunch of skill building type of rooms, including like libraries, computer labs, auditoriums, music rooms, literally like everything you can think of, I've put it in this building because it is a huge building. Right now, we're trying to think more about like general layout of the outside, and I was really pleased with the color scheme that I figured out for this, so I want to show you what I've done. The whole place is very symmetrical, and it's kind of shaped like the sort of building you might see on like High School Musical almost. And this is totally different from the high school that I went to. I'm from Florida, and so I think our school buildings are just typically a little bit different than you might see in a lot of other regions across the country. I never went to a single school that was like one big central building like this. All of my schools growing up were like a series of small buildings. We had outdoor hallways, you know, like it was a very different sort of style. If I built my real life high school, it would be like a campus kind of, and there would be like a few different buildings that maybe had like 6 classrooms in each of them. So you would have to walk outside to get between your different classes. And that's just not really how this building is at all. I've actually never set foot in a school that is like this before. It's just what I've seen like pictures of, and you know, you see it on TV. But back to this building for a second, I was basing the entire exterior color scheme on those Discover University windows. They kind of have that like yellowy stone texture on the outside and then like a reddish accent color. So that's the color combo that I was trying to go for. I used all of those things together with like the darker reddish brick, but also some lighter yellow accents. So we've got a brick wallpaper from City Living. We've got windows from University. We've got like those extra corner accents. That's actually a tile wallpaper from Snowy Escape, and I put it in all of the corners. And then the foundation is from the Castle kit. So it's a kind of weird combo of different types of items, but I think it worked out pretty well in the end. And now we're moving inside for a second to start thinking about the floor plan. I don't want you to panic about the back. I am well aware the back is completely flat. We worry about the back afterward. I was like doing the front first and trying to think about the front layout, and then I was gonna base the back on how the floor plan turned out. But don't worry, it's not gonna stay one big blank wall, I swear. Trust the process. It's a long build. We got a lot to show off. Now, this build is one of the biggest lots I've ever done. Anytime I build a 64 by 64 lot, it feels like a big deal to me because I don't build on lots that are this big that often. And this one actually took me 3 days in real life to finish. I probably spent like 10 plus hours on this. And I did actually live stream the entire thing over on my Twitch channel, so I can link that down below in case you want to watch it back. I post all of my live streams on my second channel called More Simsy after I finish streaming them. So bear in mind, it's gonna be a process to watch the whole thing back, but if you're looking for some background noise, I can link it for you. And embarrassingly, I built this like over a month ago, but I'm only just now posting it on YouTube. I was kind of saving it for when it was closer to back to school time. And that's kind of a funny thing to bring up too, because where I live in Florida now is back to school time. Like the kids went back to school last week here in my school district, and that's really early compared to a lot of places, even compared to places in the US. Florida goes back to school pretty soon compared to a lot of areas, but we always go back in like early to mid-August. Like growing up, my birthday was almost always the first week of school, and my birthday is August 14th. So compared to some parts of the world, like my husband Dan, he's British, and he's always like, early August, what is wrong with you people going back to school now? So I'm curious in the comments, when does school start back up in your area? Please let us know. We must compare. I'm probably a bit early to the back to school trend with my Sims build, but this feels right to me, okay? So I'm gonna post this one now anyway. But at this point, back to our Sims build for a second, we've kind of figured out more of the floor plan. So I want to point out a couple of things that I'm trying to add in. I'll explain to you the layout more as we start actually furnishing it. There's a couple sort of weird things that I tried to add in that I wanted to show you. First of all, I was getting desperate for different ways to fill up space because it's so big. I was like trying everything I could to take up different parts of this build and just take up more space. I ended up putting a fake nurse's office downstairs. Do I need a nurse's office? No. Completely useless, non-functional in this game, but I put one just to use up a corner of the building. I also put in an elevator, and that's what I wanted to give kind of a disclaimer about because the elevators are really weird in this game. Obviously, you'd want to have an elevator in the high school for accessibility reasons because it's a 2-story building, but in The Sims, elevators aren't really an accessibility thing because they're not functional. They don't do anything. So obviously in real life, you would have an elevator and then there would be like an elevator shaft and it would be on both floors. But in The Sims, the elevators aren't elevators. They're basically just spawn points. So you can't put more than one elevator on a lot. Like for me, an ideal scenario would be to have an elevator downstairs and then an elevator upstairs so you could go between the 2 floors. But it's physically impossible to place 2 elevators in this game because when you try to, it tells you can only have 1 per lot. There are some ways around that technically. I'm only mentioning it because people are gonna ask. Like if you duplicate the room that it's in, it'll let you place more than 1 elevator, but you can't go in and out of build mode when you've done that. Like the game does not not want you to have more than one elevator. Even with cheats, you can't really do it. So we only have the elevator downstairs, and then upstairs, I thought about putting like a fake door that looked like an elevator to try and pretend that it was the elevator shaft, but I ended up making it into a supply closet instead. So we still have the elevator shaft in the same place, but I put like janitor supply storage up there. That's one of those times where I was kind of balancing the realism with like function in The Sims, and you don't really need a janitor closet either. But all of the ideas that I had to make a fake elevator looked kind of bad, so I just settled on not doing it. And then there is some kind of weird gameplay to this lot now because I have the elevator in there. So normally your Sims will spawn outside next to the school bus, but because I have an elevator here, they spawn inside the building next to the elevator. Personally, I'm not too bothered by that. I kind of like that they spawn next to the elevator. It's a little bit easier because they spawn in the school and they don't just all stand outside in that clump like they usually do. If you've played high school years, you know what I'm talking about. They all kind of just stand outside and like stand around until the bell rings. I prefer this version because I think I prefer to have them stand around inside the school than outside the school. But I just wanted to warn you in case you downloaded it. It is a little bit confusing if you're not used to that. And now we're moving on to the outside because I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna lay out the whole exterior and like the back of the building. I went back and forth a lot on whether or not I wanted to have a pool in this build. There was a lot of discussion in my Twitch chat about where to put the pool. Should there be a basement pool? Should we have a pool in the back? And I decided against putting a pool altogether. I was going to, and I ended up not liking it very much. But what I did do is put a gym in the back of the building. So we have 2 basketball courts, and then we also have like an extra gym space. And the extra gym is honestly kind of similar to the auditorium that's next to this lot where like the prom takes place, but it's not an auditorium. And I just put cheer mats in there and like a coach's office. So there is a place if you have like a cheerleader sim, they can come here and practice. Truly, that back building is literally just there to take up space. I don't intend my Sims to ever go in there. It is literally just there to fill up the back corner of the lot. And I could have put a pool in there, but I think I was kind of channeling more of my own high school experience, and we didn't have a pool at my high school, but we did have an indoor gym. We had a swim team and stuff, but they practiced at like a local public pool, not at like a pool at the school campus. It really just depends where you're from. Everybody's gonna have a different experience with that. So there's no like right or wrong way to do it in The Sims because it's so dependent on where you are and what your life was like when you were growing up. And I was really trying to use this as an excuse to put more random skill building items. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to have the microscope from the base game, but I also wanted to have the observatory from the base game. We have like so many of these random little skill things. I even have a woodworking classroom on the 2nd floor with a ton of those woodworking tables. There's not really any need for any of that stuff during the school day because when your Sims at school, they have a little bit of free time to work on skills, but for the most part, they're just going to classes and then leaving. But this is all kind of there in case you wanted to stay after school and skill build. I've actually been doing that a bunch in my own gameplay recently when I've been playing high school years because it's nice to have all that stuff here just to like work on painting if I don't have an easel or whatever it might be. It took me a long time to figure out the layout of the exterior. I think that always happens to me when I'm building these giant lots. Like half the battle is just the planning phase of where is it all gonna go? How are we gonna split it up? What's it gonna look like on the outside? How am I gonna do the landscaping? How do we have this look like it actually takes up parts of the lot? I'm pretty sure I spent an entire stream doing just that, like a 3-hour stream the whole day. All I did was try to lay out outside stuff. How is the exterior gonna look? Where is it all gonna go? And then it took me 2 different days to furnish it. Next time I try and build a 64 by 64 lot, remind me not to. Remind me that I should not do that. It is fun from time to time, but oh my goodness. There comes a point where it's like, okay, there are only so many bathrooms that I can furnish. Like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep this up. While I'm just sat trying to figure out color scheme though, I tend to use these builds like a podcast, and I have a couple of life updates for you. So let me tell you what I've been up to recently. When you're seeing this, I'm actually gonna be in the UK because I flew to London to visit my husband Dan's family, but also to go to the Taylor Swift concert. So I'm gonna be at her concert on the 16th. You're seeing this a few days afterward. So I don't have like stories from the concert to share yet because it hasn't happened for me, but I will tell you I am very excited to get a chance to go. We're mostly mostly just visiting family and friends and stuff while we're over there. We don't have a ton of like big touristy plans or anything aside from the concert, but I am growing a little bit concerned because we're flying to London the day before the concert, but our plane lands the morning of the concert. And this is because I refuse to fly on my birthday. Like, it's my own fault for doing this. I booked it this way on purpose because I was like, there's no way that I'm doing a red-eye flight on the night of the 14th to land on the 15th. I just do not want to spend my birthday on a plane. I don't want to be on a 9-hour flight to the UK on my birthday. So all should be fine and well, okay? As long as nothing goes wrong. If there's no like delays or anything, we'll be fine. I probably shouldn't even talk about it. I don't want to speak it into existence. But our flight lands at like 7 a.m. the morning of the concert. So there's a lot of wiggle room. That is assuming that it doesn't get delayed like a full 24 hours because that has happened to me before. Trust me, I've been on a lot of flights to London. When you're in a long distance relationship, it happens. So anyway, I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I think it will hopefully be fine. And I will let you know. I'll be posted about it probably on like Instagram and stuff to complain. So you'll get updates from me over there. In my mind, the worst case scenario is like an extreme weather delay that then causes the flight crew to time out and not be able to work that night anymore. And then they have to push it until the next day. And it's Florida in the summertime, so weather problems are not unlikely. We have nightmare storms every day. Anyway, I'm landscaping. Let's talk about landscaping. So I was trying to do some relatively fancy, like formal gardens type of landscaping with this build. A lot of bushes and a lot of fancy fences to fill up the areas. We also have a really fancy like courtyard almost in the front surrounded by trees and like a little fountain. And then in the back, it's mostly just a big open paved space. In the back, we end up putting a bunch of picnic tables. I kind of like the idea of it being like a second outdoor cafeteria. I don't actually know if your Sims will use it that much for those purposes, but it's there if they want to. And in the front, the fountain that I use is for Romantic Garden stuff, and your Sims can actually sit on that fountain and they can get in the fountain and like splash around in it. Probably not the most advisable thing to do, but it is possible for them to do it. So it might be kind of a fun little touch for you and your Sims. And now we are finally, after all of this time, moving on to the interior of the building. We're starting with doors and putting all the placement there, and then we're gonna decorate the first of 2 classrooms. So I tried to make the most important things right up next to the front. I wanted the classrooms to be really easy access for you, both the classrooms and the cafeteria, because that's what you're gonna use the most. At least that's what I use the most. So for me personally, I wanted to have easy access to them. And functionally, in these classrooms in The Sims, you don't actually need that much stuff. You need to have the whiteboard, and you need to have at least 6 desks. So I ended up putting 8 desks total in here, plus the whiteboard, and then a little bit of clutter. I was kind of trying to decorate this one as though it was a pretend language arts, social studies type of class. I made the right one more like history, English class, and the left one is more like science, math class, but sort of generic vibes because you can't actually do those things in this game. It also doesn't matter how you decorate them. They'll go to the same classroom for every single one of their classes, no matter what, and there's only ever 2 classes going on. I'm actually kind of curious to hear your thoughts on that part too, because that was a really big criticism of the high school years pack when it first came out, was like only having the 2 classes, only being allowed to have 1 high school in the whole world, because this lot is the only high school in all of The Sims 4, and it's also only able to be a high school. You can't change it into like a different lot type. It's stuck being a high school. And people were kind of upset that you couldn't build like a Willow Creek high school if you wanted to. And I relate to that. I understand, because I would love to make a high school for different parts of the world. But also when I think about it more realistically, there's not a lot of need for multiple high schools in The Sims 4. Oh, do you agree? Snap jumped off of her cat tree and then immediately up here onto the desk. Hello, have you come to hang out with us? You're not even looking at the build. But there's just realistically not that many teens in The Sims 4. Like in the base game, there's only 2 teens. There's Malcolm Landgrab and Cassandra Goth, and those are the only teens in all of The Sims 4 base game. So if you have high school years, you have a few more teens, obviously, that populate. But if you're lucky, the worlds all have maybe 1 or 2 teens each, and so there's not really a need to have a whole separate school in Oasis Springs if Malcolm is the only person who would attend it. So I think it kind of makes sense to have 1 big school for the entirety of The Sims 4. You just kind of wish that you could move where the school goes. You know, like it'd be cool if you could swap it out and put it somewhere else or something. I was kind of laughing about that too when I started decorating the teacher's lounge in this build, because I went to furnish it and like add some coffee and add some things for the teachers, and I was like, wow, these teachers are really going through it because there's only 2 teachers in the entire world, like the entire planet. There's only 2 teachers, and they're responsible for educating every single person in the entire world. They've got like the world on their shoulders, and you know they're not paid enough. Those poor 2 teachers. I've had some really bad luck with teachers in The Sims 4 as well. Twice now, my Sims teacher has died at school during the school day of old age. But when you think about the kind of pressure they're under, it's not surprising. I do seriously feel bad for them, both in The Sims and also in real life. If you are a teacher or you work in education at all or in childcare or like anything to do with kids, you are a superhuman and you are doing some really important things. So thank you to anyone who's involved, especially right now with the school year starting back up soon. We're all thinking of you, okay? And I know a lot of you are teachers because you tell me in my Twitch chat. So seriously, major respect to all of you. We're just finishing up that second classroom now. The first one was that one that had more of a science vibe, and the second one has that like history sort of vibe. There were a lot of funny suggestions from my Twitch chat about things to add into those rooms, and I kind of didn't do all of them. A lot of people wanted me to have a rat from my first pet stuff, but I felt like it was too big and it didn't really fit. I did genuinely consider it, but I settled for a little fishbowl instead, which by the way, don't keep your fish in bowls. It's not safe for them. That is not appropriate fish care. I don't know why they still sell that kind of stuff to people, but if you're gonna buy a fish, please do research about how to properly take care of it and the proper tank sizes and stuff. But anyway, I did put a fishbowl inside of the classroom. And now we're doing all of the lockers, and I tried to put a lot of different lockers in this hallway. There's more than one locker type, which is also kind of weird in this game. So there's a couple different sizes of decorative lockers. There's like one that has 3 in a row, one that has 4 in a row, one that has just 1, I think maybe. And there's also functional lockers, and those are only the ones that are 2 in a row. So if you want your Sims to actually use the lockers, you have to put the 2 wide one. But if you want to have just decorative lockers, you can put the other sized ones. It's kind of weird, but I guess it's nice to have options. I put, I think, only the functional lockers across most of this place because I find it kind of annoying when you click on the locker thinking that you can use it and then it's one of the ones that you can't. It's just confusing for gameplay. But anyway, in this room, this is like the principal's office, and this one is necessary. You do need to have a principal's desk as one of the lot requirements. That makes me kind of sad because I would like to use one of the fancier desks, like the big fancy wooden desks or something, but with how the lot works, the principal desk has to be this desk. That's the 2 wide high school years desk, and so I put it in here, and I'm not thrilled about how it looks, but it's fine. That's one of the other things that kind of worries me about high school years because I want to put like a teacher's desk in each of the classrooms, and I'd kind of like to use that desk as the teacher's desk, but I don't want the principal to be sat at the teacher's desk instead of in their office, so I end up only using the desk in one place for the principal. I haven't actually tested what happens if you use the desk in other places too, but I feel like it can't be good. It's The Sims 4, nothing's ever good. It never works in a reasonable way. We're moving on to the cafeteria now, but just because I cut it out, I'll tell you, the whole place is completely symmetrical, so mirroring the principal's office on the other side is the teacher's lounge, and I went to great lengths to make it a cute teacher's lounge and have like functional stuff, like we have a fridge and a microwave and all those things. The only problem is I have literally never ever seen a single teacher go in there and actually use it. I've built quite a few high schools over the years in The Sims 4, and I've literally never seen the teachers go in there. They just don't use it. I wish they did because it would be cool, but nobody ever uses them. So it's kind of just there as a decoration, as with a lot of this building, unfortunately. So in the cafeteria, I was really trying to mimic my real life high school experience a little bit. And when I was in high school, we had these tables that had attached chairs to them. I don't know how many of you had this experience as well, but it was like one big long table that maybe honestly had like 12 seats at it or something, and it could fold up in the middle, and it was all on wheels, and there were like little stools attached to the bottom, individual round stools for you to sit on. It wasn't like one big bench, it was all individual seats, and they had loads of these just big long tables across the cafeteria at my high school. So I was kind of trying to channel that energy inside of this room. I put 3 wider tables in here, plus I got the little cafeteria space so you can actually buy food. I put vending machines, and I put a small extra bathroom in here too. There's 2 bigger bathrooms on the far sides of the building, and then 1 toilet central in the cafeteria. I've had difficulty before with my sim getting in trouble for like trying to autonomously go to the bathroom and then taking too long to walk across the school to get there. And so I just put an extra one inside the cafeteria. It's really tiny, it's like 3x1 tiles, but at least it's there so you have it if you need it. My Twitch chat was joking a lot about how it probably stinks in there to have the bathroom next to the cafeteria, but I don't think it's that bad. I mean, we had a bathroom in our cafeteria in high school and it was fine. So I'm thinking more about functionality too. It would just be really helpful to have an extra toilet there. So I made sure I had one. I used a couple other kind of fun things too. Like there's these little trash cans from Snowy Escape that look like they have recycling spaces in them too. And there's not a lot of recycling in The Sims 4. Nothing looks like it could be for recycling. So I tried to include that too. Out in the back, I put all those picnic tables like I mentioned. By the way, I don't know if you're keeping count or anything, but we still have a library, a computer lab, a science lab, and an art studio to furnish just downstairs. And that's not even counting the big hangout space, the music room, the auditorium, the gym, the locker room, the extra bathroom, the woodworking classroom, the debate classroom, all of those other things that we have to put upstairs as well. There's so much going on in this build. It is huge. Oh, and the nurse's office. I forgot to mention that part too. We have a long ways left to go. We're still kicking. I was actually having a lot of fun going through and decorating this though. I joke about how big it is, but seriously, it's really fun to go through and like imagine what kinds of things you want to add in. I was finding all this cool stuff like hand sanitizer dispensers and exit signs and fire extinguishers, fire exit signs, and I was really enjoying putting all those details in because I don't really build community lots that often. I always feel like I'm not that good at building community lots, so it's nice to have an excuse to make one and also like go all out on one. This next thing we're gonna furnish is the library, and I think that this is my favorite part, or maybe second favorite part. I like the auditorium upstairs a lot, which I'll show you in a minute. A lot of people in my chat really wanted me to use the Book Nook kit bookshelves in here, but I ended up using just the high school year ones instead. I kind of liked the color scheme of the high school years ones, and I was also thinking about how I use the Book Nook kit ones all the time in like almost every build, but I very rarely use the high school years ones. So this was a good excuse to put a bunch of the high school years bookshelves together. Plus they tile kind of nicely and they look sort of like they belong in a public space like this. There's some other kind of fun items. Like we have this library return cart from Get to Work. There's also a desk, like a front desk almost from Get to Work. So I used that and I put the Get to Work counters that match, and I tried to lay that out and have like a check-in desk for the librarian. It's a really big room, but all in all, it's actually not that big. When I was furnishing it, I was like, wait, I have no space for seats in here. No space for computers in here. So I just put a couple of chairs by the front and I have like some book posters and stuff. And I ended up putting computers across the hall in a big computer lab. This is purely a space for books. I don't really honestly see myself having my sim come in here like at all when I'm playing with this pack. There's just not really a need to. Like you don't need books at school, which is a weird thing to say, but you don't really need to read the books at school. I will use the computers though. I think the computers and honestly like some of the logic skill building things like from the science lab will be very useful to have. And I also put chess tables in here. So if you're playing with a sim who's a part of the chess club, they could come in here and use them. There's a few more chess tables upstairs in this kind of like big open hangout space that I have in the hallway. I wanted to make sure I had stuff for every single one of the clubs. So we have like gym equipment in case you're a football player. We've got cheerleading mats if you're a cheerleader. We've got computers if you're in the programming club. We've got chess tables if you're in the chess club. So you can do all of those things. A lot of people in my Twitch chat were suggesting a lot of other ideas, things like drama club type of stuff. But I was really trying to focus on what we actually have in The Sims. And there is a drama club, but not one that you need to use stuff at school for. So I didn't do as much pretending. Like most of what I have here is stuff that you actually genuinely need if you're playing with the high school pack. Also, the book posters in here, there are a bunch of really nice library posters from Strangerville of all packs. I always forget about that. But of course the library is like a huge part of Strangerville gameplay. There's not a whole bunch of Strangerville gameplay, but the gameplay there is involves you having to go to the library and talk to scientists in there a bunch. So they have some library poster swatches. There's actually 3 of them, and I used all 3 inside of this place. I also used the Book Nook kit pictures because they kind of look like book covers, so I hung those up. And then I put a bunch of things like different posters and diplomas and like bird things above the bookshelves just to have it look kind of busy and like cluttered in here. This was kind of what my school library looked like when I was in high school. They had stuff on the walls everywhere, so I was just trying to mimic that. There's a weird mix of like crystal posters and banners and maps and all kinds of random stuff, but I think it worked out pretty well in the end. And this next room is that computer lab that I was talking about. So I put some desks in here. I actually don't know if these desks that have the big tall backs to them are that realistic. My high school didn't have anything like this, but it is nice to have some privacy, and there's about 6 computers in here, which is also pretty useful. So if you wanted to like write a paper or practice writing writing, play video games. You could do that on these computers. Honestly, you could fill all of your Sims needs really easily at this school because we have computers for fun. There's obviously toilets, there's places to buy food, there's showers because there's a gym, and I put a cot, like a bed, in the nurse's office, so if you really needed to, you could even sleep here. And hey, sometimes your Sim stays up too late. Like sometimes you gotta sleep on your lunch break. I get it, I understand. So we've got plenty of space for all those things you might need. This is the room that I was kind of picturing being maybe for the programming club if you wanted to use it. They don't actually do that. They don't actually meet and like hang out in that room together, but it is nice to have. And it's certainly better than the original one because in the default high school, there's a little tiny room in the basement. It's like 3x4 tiles, the size of a bathroom basically. And it has 2 computers in it, 2 old computers in it. And there is kind of maybe a story to be told there about like the basement classroom, and they've got these old computers and they're using it for their club, but they didn't decorate it well enough to kind of tell that story because it could have lemonade mouth energy. And instead it has boring Sims 4 empty default lot energy. And that makes me sad. If they had split it up and like maybe had no basement, but had more stuff on the first floor, I think that would be better. I almost forget that it even has a basement in the default lot because I never play in the default high school. I only ever play in my own rebuilt high school versions. I need to stop talking. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Stop ranting about the EA builds, Kayla. We've been through this. This high school year's one is extra weird though because they had Simmers build all the lots except the high school. So they got Sims creators to make the builds just for all the houses and not this build. And I think that's because of maybe time constraints or like functionality constraints. They maybe had to do this build later on when the pack was closer to being finished or something, but I don't know. I built the rec center for Growing Together. I guess the rec center is not as like critical for the functionality of the gameplay though. The whole gameplay takes place in this one building, so I get that it's a big deal. And speaking of gameplay in this one building, we're making the probably least functional room right now. This is the nurse's office. This is totally unnecessary, seriously. There's no reason to have this. It's purely a space filler, but I put like some cots in here, some chairs, there's like a mini fridge for medicine, and there's a nurse's desk. That's a lot nicer than what my high school had for the nurse's office. In my high school, there was like a chair, they had a desk, and then like some cabinets where they had band-aids, and you had to go in there and ask for one if you needed a band-aid, and there really wasn't anything else going on. So this high school has some better options, but it's nice to dream big, right? And again, it has cots in there, so if you needed to sleep, you could sleep in there too. I kind of just like how it looks as well. And this next room is the science lab that I was telling you about. And this one, I know it's goofy, okay? It's got a really weird collection of stuff in it. We've got the microscope, I put a robotics machine, I put a couple of the like actual science lab tables from the science career. I also put a big tall table because at my high school, we had like basically counter height tables that we used to do our experiments on in our lab. They had like one lab that was shared by all the science classrooms. So that's kind of what I'm picturing this to be. I also put in a sink, and then there's a shower in here. I know it's ridiculous, okay? But in my high school, they had one of those eye wash stations in case you got like chemicals in your eye. I'm pretending the shower is one of those eye wash stations, and it also just looks kind of like a fancy alien robot magic shower thing, so it's fun to have. But if you're looking at that and you're like, what the heck is going on in this room? That's what I was aiming for, okay? I swear it makes a little bit more sense than it might appear to on first glance. That room essentially, again, is just a skill building room though. I can see myself using the microscope a lot actually because I never put that anywhere else. I find it very hard to place in my houses and stuff, so I can really see myself using that thing in here. And I also put a laptop because then you might have easier access to a computer somewhere else because the other computers are kind of like on the other side of the building in the computer lab. So at least this one has another computer for you to use. In testing, I've kind of also realized that the other Sims at school never use any of those things either. It's very rare that the Sims will autonomously use any of that stuff, but it's fine. It's kind of just there for the vibes. This last room downstairs is the art classroom, and this one has some easels. I put one of the drawing tablets. I put some of those little clay, lumps of clay, so you can use those. There's a bunch of canvases and like art hung up. I actually use this a lot in my own gameplay because I like my Sims to be scouts, and you need to do art for the scouts career from Seasons, or scouts after school activity. It's not a career, there's no money involved. But I was having my Sims skip class in my legacy challenge and just come here and paint all day to try and finish the scouting badges. So it's nice to have. There's also a bunch of like crafty clutter from from the Nifty Knitting pack, so I put some of those things in here too. I put a sink so you can wash your paintbrushes and stuff. I really wish that there was more of like an art class situation. I think it would have been kind of cool if they had more dedicated classes they take, because your Sims do take different kinds of classes. Like you'll get pop-ups that they were in history class today, or they were in science class today, and they'll gain different skills at school during the different classes, but they just go to the same classroom and there's no actual change in gameplay. There's just change in the pop-ups. I need to remind myself to use Active School more often because I'm so bad about it. Like, I just get so, I don't know, maybe it's because it's repetitive. I just get so annoyed at the pop-ups asking me to go to school, and I most of the time don't go. I might go like once a week with my teenagers, but you can benefit a lot from going because you can build the skills so much faster because they're just passively earning them while they're at school with you. That's pretty much the end of that downstairs area, and you'll notice the speed build is kind of getting close to finishing, and that's actually because I cut out a lot of parts of this. We're doing the auditorium next. I did leave this in, and when I say auditorium, I kind of built this almost to be similar to like the auditorium lot that we have for prom, but it's more of a stage and it's inside of the school. I was picturing like maybe the drama club uses this, maybe the band does performances in here, and I kind of decorated it as though there was a person coming to speak in here for career day. So I put like one of the career day little tables, and I've got some seats back here. You will never use this. There's no reason to use this unless you wanted to like use the microphone to practice telling jokes or something, but I like the vibes of this room so much that I had to do it. And it's big too, so it takes up a lot of space. And upstairs total, this is like the main central space. You walk up the staircases straight into the auditorium, and then on either side we have all of the other things. So on the right side we have like a detention classroom and the music area. On the left side we have all of the gym space, and then kind of more in the middle we have the woodworking tables, and we also have a podium room, kind of like a speech and debate class almost. I will give you a proper tour of the full building because I want to pop back into the game and like show you around in more detail because there's so much to look at on this lot. We can't just look at it in the speed build. First of all, I had to cut a lot of it out too because it would have been so long. I've already been talking to myself for so long. There's only so much speed build that people can handle, I think. So I'll show you a tour with everything. But this is kind of the finished product of the auditorium. We have lights, we've got some seats. I also put some movie posters up in here. I felt like it kind of looked like maybe they were posters from the different school plays they've put on. So it was kind of a cute nod to that. Of course, there are no school plays, but we can pretend. And with that, the speed build is just about finished. Finally. So let's load back up the game. As a reminder, this is the big empty lot that we've been trying to build on. And if you're looking for this on the gallery, it's called Copperdale High School. It costs 455,000 simoleons, and unfortunately, it uses so many packs, like a disgusting amount of packs. I have built a base game and high school years only high school before. This one is not one of those times. This has everything in it. It might also take a second to load, so bear with us as we try and place this thing because it's a big lot. And this is what the finished exterior looks like. So there's a couple of details outside that I want to show you. Around this little fountain space, there's just a lot of open space so your Sims can walk, they can sit, they can hang out. I also put some bike racks in the front, so we have a lot of bikes as if the Sims biked to school. I put some flags next to the front door, and we have a big sign. Kind of around this side, you can walk down this whole pathway. We've got dumpsters. In the way back, we have the observatory that we talked about. This is kind of an overview of the back patio where we have all of the picnic tables. None of these are gonna get used, but in real life, they would be so busy. Like, I bet in real life, everybody would eat lunch out here. In The Sims, nobody eats lunch out here, but at least it takes up space. We also have hopscotch, and yes, it's a high school, so this is kind of a kid's thing, but teens can use it too, and it's kind of fun to have things to take up space. I also put 2 basketball courts. I know this might seem kind of weird, but at my high school, they had 2 tennis courts right next to each other like this. They didn't have 2 basketball courts, but I was kind of trying to channel that sort of vibe. And plus, it's nice to have a big giant court and take up more space. That's a theme over here. This is that second gym building. I didn't even show you most of this in the speed build, so I'll show you it now. It's literally just a big open empty gym. I put 2 cheer mats. There's a big wall of mirrors. There's some music. We've got an extra vending machine. I also put some more lockers and a locker room for them to shower in. I did not put any toilets in here on purpose because I was worried about my Sim autonomously coming out here and trying to use the toilet in this building, because that would be really annoying if they tried to like leave from class and go all the way out here to do it. And you know they would. It's The Sims 4. So I just have showers and lockers. And then this, I was kind of picturing this being like the gym coach's office. So they have a computer, they've got some seats. I put like trophies and posters and jerseys on the wall, and they have a little storage room too with like old gym equipment in it. And again, this is just to take up space. All of this stuff outside is. When you actually come into the building, you walk in through this little front door, and we have kind of a cool 2-story entryway right here. Towards the front, we have like some big display cases with old trophies. We've got like some diplomas. We also have a cork board with like signs. I picture that having announcements about like school events that are going on. And then you can go up the staircases to the upstairs, but we're gonna stay down for a second. Oh, and look at this, no phones. I like that sign too. You kind of walk forward into a big hallway, and most of this hallway just has lockers in it. Lots and lots of lockers for your Sims to use. Straight ahead, we have the cafeteria, and in here, we have some more storage for like fancy awards and stuff. We've got all kinds of vending machines, one from high school years, one from base game, one from Snowy Escape, and one from Get to Work. So there's a wide variety of food here. Plus there's like the food counter, so you can buy like a hot meal from this, and they can sit at any of these tables if they want to eat. Plus there's a bathroom if you need to use the toilet, easy access. I think we'll go to the classrooms first. So there's 2 classrooms on either side of the staircase. They're both pretty nearby. So this is the one that I tried to make sort of inspired by science. It's got like a skeleton and some science posters and all that sort of stuff, the periodic table. And then your Sims will come and they'll actually sit in these seats and they'll watch the professor teach. The other classroom is the same, just mirrored and with like slightly different swatches. This one kind of has more of like a reading theme with like reading posters. I don't know which one it'll give your Sims when you play here, but you'll just get assigned to one of them. On this side, we have the science lab that I was telling you all about. We've got some like fire emergency signs and various things like that. We also have the first of many bathrooms, so there's quite a few bathroom stalls. This is the art studio. We've got 3 easels, a lot of like canvas decor and art decor. I like how it looks like there's kids with the art class stuff being hung up. This is the drawing tablet, and then we also have the lump of clay, and then we have some sinks and some storage aprons, you know, all that kind of thing. In here, this is that nurse's office that I was telling you about, so I put some clutter, like a Tooth Fairy poster, and they've got, for some reason, some medical supplies just out and about, paper towels. There's also an extra bathroom in here. And then we have like the eye chart, the mini fridge, and then these are the cots that they can sleep in if they need to. Here is that non-functional elevator I reminded you of. And then this is the teacher's lounge that nobody uses. But I put like a microwave and a fridge and a coffee maker. This door is the like no access permitted faculty door. So the teenagers can't actually go through that door. The faculty can, except nobody does. There's 2 variants. There's like the plain door and then the special faculty one. It actually has frosted glass as well, which is kind of an interesting detail. You can see the other doors don't have frosted glass on them. Oh, is that the wrong color? Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. Well, the glass is still frosted. It's just a different swatch. Further down this side, this is the principal's office with that stupid desk that I didn't want to use. I gave them like filing cabinets and diplomas and a frog, of course. You can see I tried to put a bunch of clutter in the hallway with like various school themed posters and signs. This is that computer lab that we had. We've got another bathroom right here, and then this is the big library. I love the posters in here, especially this one. And I love all of the artwork above the library shelves. We also have some more chess tables back here. And that is the full downstairs layout. So then you go upstairs, and this is stuff that you have not seen yet. So in this upstairs hallway, I kind of just made this big hallway space into kind of a hangout area. I put like a ping pong table. We've got sort of some beanbag chairs. In my mind, the school's colors are blue and yellow, so I was trying to channel those with all of the decor. I love this huge mural they have too, and you can see what I mean by straight ahead. There's the auditorium, so you can walk into these 2 doors and then come and sit in the auditorium. Off to the left side, we've got some more chess tables. We've got the pretend elevator shaft that has become some sort of like janitor's closet. We have this debate room. It literally just has the debate podium from university, but if you wanted to build the research and debate skill, it's kind of a big item, so it's nice to have one in public that you can use. And there's also a whole gym set up over here. So we have a big locker room with more toilets, there's lockers, there's showers, and then you can use the actual gym. So in here we have all the gym equipment. We've got like weightlifting machines, treadmills, gym posters, a huge cheer mat. I mean, like all the stuff that you might need. And then way across the other side, we have the wood shop class. It has woodworking tables, and I tried to put some like maybe different stuff the kids might have made. I've got the jewelry tools from the new Crystal Creations pack up here on the walls. I like the big metal storage racks too, and I even tried to put like some scuff marks in the floor. My high school didn't have a class like this, but I think it's useful in The Sims to have a way to build handiness skill. So I wanted to put one of these in here. You kind of need the handiness skill, so it's nice. There's another bathroom on this side of the building. And then this is what I'm calling the detention classroom. It has actually the detective's corkboard in here. But it looks like a whiteboard. I didn't want to put a whiteboard again because I didn't want to break it by having a third classroom, because I did not want your Sims to come all the way up here to this corner to go to class. But I wanted to fill up some space somehow, so I did this in here, and we're saying the kids come in here for detention. And then last, but certainly not least, this is the music classroom. So they've got a little bit of a stage going on with all kinds of different instruments, and then we have big long lines of different keyboards, and they've got all of these other extra instruments. We've got some lockers to store your instrument, and then I put some chairs so they can watch the other kids perform. Again, I don't really see your Sims actually needing this for school, but if you're trying to build like the piano skill, for example, it's nice to have options for places to do it. And that, my friends, is the fully finished build. Wait, oh, one more thing. Oh my God. Okay, so I put these windows in the gym. This was actually what inspired that no door build that I did last week. These are the easy exit windows from high school years. Your Sim can climb through them, and these are functional. I've tested it. So I put this like little hangout space on the rooftop outside of the gym, so your Sims can get out that window and then come sit out here. I put like a food delivery bag and a lunchbox, and I also put a mural so you could paint this wall if you wanted to. You can actually get quick meals from this lunchbox, so if you wanted for your Sims to like come out here and grab food for lunch, they could totally have lunch up here, which is kind of a fun little detail. And it's not that noticeable from the front of the lot because it's kind of blocked by the tree and stuff, but I love the idea of the kids sneaking out to the roof to go and eat. You would probably get in so much trouble for that. To sneak out there, to climb on the roof, to paint the wall, oh my God. But it's fun, so I did it. And that is the fully finished product. I also actually rebuilt this auditorium too. I didn't make a video about that, but if you look on my gallery, you'll see the high school, and then you'll see 4 different variants of the auditorium. It's because you have to place every single one separately, but I have like the default version, career day, graduation, and prom, and it's all decorated for you in case you wanted to use it. And that way it'll match this building as well. And with that, I think I'm going to end this video right here. We have gone on and on long enough. Thank you for watching. Have the best rest of your day, and I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everybody. Oh my goodness, this is actually the last video that I had to pre-record before I leave for my trip, so I am very relieved. We're done, we finished all of it.